can't produce chips anymore. So if you cut off 30% of the world's helium supply, you cut off the capacity to produce 30% of the world's semiconductors.
And Iran have blocked that gap.
And that means that we've suddenly lost 30% of the world's helium.
I've got a quote from March 2026 from leading helium expert Phil Kornbluch. He said, we're looking at a minimum 2 to 3 months shutdown of helium production with up to 6 months before supply gets back to normal. And he explained you can't stockpile helium because it leaks through containers.
Yep.
So once supply is cut off, semiconductor production will stop entirely. South Korea gets 65% of its helium from Qatar in that region and makes 2/3 of the world's memory chips. Their government has launched an emergency investigation into the shortage. Nobody's talking about this.
I know, and this is one reason it's quite terrifying about the scale of what we're going through, because people are just thinking oil's going to be more expensive. That's the sort of mindset we have. But in fact, critical elements of the production system are being terminated by this conflict. You can't produce chips anymore, and you can't produce these chips either because the fertilizer's disappearing.
So you're holding a potato in your hand.
Yeah.
How are potato chips going to be impacted by the war?
Because of fertilizer. If we don't have the fertilizer, we can't grow the potatoes. And it's not just potatoes, it's a whole range of crops. We eat food, okay? We eat this green stuff. It actually starts as brown stuff because the fertilizer is an essential part of growing all the food we eat. And the fertilizer is produced by a process called the Haber-Bosch process, which takes petroleum and nitrogen and fixes them in such a way that you can put this on the field and your plants will grow courtesy of the fertilizer. If we didn't have fertilizer at all, guess how many billion people the planet could actually support?
I don't know.
Between 1 and 2.
And fertilizer comes from this region?
Again, 20 to 30% of our fertilizer comes through that region.
Through the Strait of Hormuz?
Through the Strait of Hormuz.
Where's it coming from?
It's coming again from the same gas field that's producing the helium, produces a side effect of fertilizer, and you need I'm not a chemist, okay, so I can get these things wrong. But you need sulfuric acid as well as part of these production processes. 20% of the world's fertilizer, helium, sulfuric acid all pass through that strait. And if you take them away, then you can't make microchips, which is what Korea is suffering from. You can't make fertilizer, which everybody will suffer from. If we lost 20% of the world's fertilizer, we'd lose roughly 20% of the world's food. And it caused a global famine. We've never had this experience before. We've had localized famines. Countries like India have had famines in parts of Africa and so on. But if this is not available, the globe has a famine.